Welcome to Local Edition. I'm Bella Shaw. Where have all the beaches gone and all the sand around the city of Port Hueneme? Mayor Jon Sharkey joins us, and we just think it's all nature. Nature's going to take its course. What about our beaches?
Well, in the case of Port Hueneme, it's an entirely man-made beach. And even a natural beach is not, people tend to think of beaches as being static and staying in one place, but actually the sand is always moving. It's either moving in or out, or it's moving side to side. In our case, it moves from west to east. And going back to 1939, when Richard Bard first started digging the harbor there, he put a jetty out there to make the harbor entrance, and that was like putting a dam in a river. And so by the early 50s, what had been a 200-yard wide beach they had a dance hall out there on the beach, as a matter of fact, in the old days, had completely eroded away. So Congress passed a bill to create what is now Channel Islands Harbor, and everything they dug out of Channel Islands Harbor is what made the Surfside neighborhood of Port Hueneme now. So that whole area is man-made, and part of the system was to create a sand trap. We know we lose 100,000 cubic yards a month.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and that sand trap is designed to hold 2 years worth of sand. And if Congress gives the Corps of Engineers the money to move that sand, everything works just fine. But we all know what's been happening in Washington these last few years, sequesters, budget cuts, continuing resolutions, other emergencies as well. I mean, the streets of New York were flooded. There are barge canals on the Mississippi that are silted up and can't be used for navigation anymore. So we're competing with all that, even though our situation is 100% federal responsibility. But what's happened this time for the first time, and I have to give Julia Brownlee, our Congress member, a lot of credit on this, is we got full funding. This is the first time we've had actual full funding for many, many years. So the dredges out there, we had a little celebration when they turned on the switch, and it's pumping sand. But it's not, even though we're getting a full load of sand this time, we still are going to have to go back next year and the year after that, because we're about 6 or 7 years behind.
Is that
and what people need to understand is that I had somebody stop me the other day, and I said, well, where's the sand on the beach? I thought they were pumping sand on the beach. Well, if you look way down at the end, it is starting to build up, and it will move down. But we're still going to have to fight with Congress over the next couple of years. The Congresswoman got a couple of amendments passed that are going to help us. There is a thing called the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. Every ship that comes into any port in the United States, they pay a tax. Goes into this fund. It's supposed to be for maintaining harbors. Past years, when we had shortages, we were able to tap into that. Congress this time decided they didn't want to spend it. There's $9 billion in there, and what the amendments say is now they're going to have to account for how it's being spent for public use and to benefit the economy. So we're hopeful that next year we'll be able to tap into that, get some extra money for that so we can get more sand next year, and then we're back with our 2-year cycle again. And if we get full funding, then we'll start looking about right. But the beach right now is probably about 150 yards from where it should be.
So it's like a river flowing downstream, isn't it?
Exactly.
The sand moves, and people don't realize, they just think, they take it for granted that the sand is always going to be there.
Right.
But that's not the case. It's
No.
man-made.
And in times past, back in the mid-90s, we had another shortage like this. And it's like you have this big hole or a bubble in the river, and it moves down. And at the Navy base at Point Mugu, they actually lost a building.
Wow.
And
it's like a big sinkhole.
I was able to get we have an assistant secretary of the Navy named Roger Nitzahara who deals with
Save
buildings.
it for next time.
Okay.
All right.
There's plenty to talk about.
Thank you so much. I'm Bella Shaw. This has been Local Edition.